Vav. We're in Behaalotecha. We're continuing this Sicha, Parshat Behaalotecha, in Chelik Beit of Lakuti Sichot. Yes? Yes. In general, we see Vav. Yes? Okay, Herschel? B'chlal, in general, Ro'im, anu, we see Shekachol shemitkarvim l'biad Mashiach. The closer we get to the arrival of the Mashiach, kach pocheses v'holeches hamachloket v'tainot al inyani Chassidut. What is the goal of Judaism? What's the goal of Judaism? There's a book which is called the Rambam, Maimonides. It's called Yad HaChazakah, the powerful hand. Yad is Yud Dalet, it's 14. There are 14 books. The Rambam wrote 14 sections, huge volumes. They contain all of the laws relevant to Judaism. Laws that nobody else deals with. For instance, the coming of the Mashiach, the building of the third temple, the laws pertaining to the third temple, etc. This idea of Mashiach is a very, very essential idea in Judaism, very essential. The Mashiach is the only one that will bring all the Jews back to the land of Israel, the only one that will build a temple. There always stands up people that say, no, we'll bring all the Jews back to Israel in our way, in a political way, in a idealistic way. It's not going to work. We'll build the temple ourselves. We have the right to do it. We can do it. We have the builders with it. It's not going to work. The Rambam says Jewish people are not a normal people, and the Holy Temple is not a normal place. Only Mashiach will bring the Jews back to Israel, and he'll do that after he builds the third temple. How is he going to build the third temple? So there's different opinions. One of the opinion, that's accepted by most Kabbalists and also in Chabad, Mikdash Hashem Konan Nu'edecha, that God will cause the Beit HaMikdash to come down from heaven. It's a pretty strange story. Where is it now? Who knows? Not been any aviators or any radar or something that's picked up this Beit HaMikdash somewhere floating in heaven, but it is there, and it will come and manifest itself like the raising of the dead, something like that. It'll manifest itself in the physical world. Holy Temple. And when that happens, it'll be in all the newspapers, and all of even CNN will advertise it, and the United Nations will adjourn permanently. And all of the Jews in the world will realize there's a God, and they'll all come back to the Holy Temple. They'll all come back to Israel, live in Israel, the Holy Temple, in order to do the commandments. They'll want to do the commandments, and only through the Holy Temple can you do all the commandments. So there'll be this Holy Temple. Okay, but then of course the third temple is not there, and Mashiach. As far as Mashiach goes, I personally believe, and a lot of people agree with me, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's the Mashiach, and his job is, read the Rambam, read what the Rambam says, his job is to awaken all the Jewish people to a certain degree, and then the temple will come down. This is all God's business. But the Rambam, Maimonides, is the only rabbi in all of Judaism that has the laws of Mashiach in a legal, binding way. All the others are estimations, what's going to be, and midrashim, and nice ideas, and things like this. We'll bring all the Jews here first, and then the Mashiach is going to come later. These are very nice ideas, but the only one that really is accurate as far as the law goes, what's really going to happen, is the Rambam. Good, Mashiach. Now, the closer that the Mashiach, in the Mashiach itself, there's different stages. There's the Mashiach comes, and then he makes everybody do tshuva, and then he brings the Holy Temple, and then etc. And then finally, there'll be the raising of the dead. This whole entire process is called the redemption, Geula. The world will be healthy, that's all, just simply healthy. So it says, the closer that Mashiach comes, the less opposition there is to Chassidut. Learning Chassidut. Now, anybody watching this that has never been exposed to Chassidut, you have pretty much no idea what I'm talking about. So you have to go to your local Chabad house and ask them over there if somebody can take 5 minutes and sit with you and learn some Chassidut. Chassidut is basically the ideas of all of the Chabad Rebbes. Up to now, there's been 7 Chabad Rebbes, beginning with the first Rebbe who wrote the Tanya, and up to the present Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he's not physically with us in a normal sense now. And that is called Chassidut. Chassidut are ideas which explain the uniqueness of God, the uniqueness of the Jewish people, the uniqueness of the Torah, etc. Even 5 minutes, even a little bit, you will be exposed. Now, when these ideas of Chassidut, they came out first time by the first Rebbe of Chabad, that wrote the Tanya, there was tremendous opposition. And the big opposition came from other religious Jews. Tremendously opposed, to the point where there were people that were beaten and even killed because they were Chassidim, no other reason. And little by little it started to be realized that they made a mistake. And that the declarations of the Gaon of Vilna, etc., there are still a few die-hard people. Like they have, they find once in a while on one of these islands in the Pacific, some, 90-year-old Japanese guy that's still fighting World War II. So there still are a few diehards that say, no, we must continue the battle, it's not over. Okay, but it gets less and less.
Well, Chabad was one of the initial streams of Hasidism.
Right.
It's continued to grow, but it wasn't so simple that they didn't like Chabad. There was problems between, Hasidism...
No, Chabad was the main one.
Yeah, but Hasidism got born in a very turbulent time.
But sure, of course.
It wasn't...
but it was the religious Jews...
The Chassids, besides...
There was a...
Even on Staten Island considered Chassids?
Listen, all those other groups of Chassidim, they weren't as organized and they weren't as proactive as Chabad. Only now in Israel has Breslov really started to go out and make a big outreach movement and spread. But before that, it was a very a introverted group of Hasidim. True, a little more emotional than the other groups. They also had books that they learned. Right? They learned Likutei Moharan. They had books that they learned. So that's, in that way, there's something like what Chabad is. But Chabad is this worldview of bringing every Jew back to Judaism and bringing every non-Jew to realize there's a creator of the universe. And this worldview is in every single line of the teachings of the Chabad Rebbes, in one way or another.
Chabad's got the Tanya.
They came from the book of Tanya. Okay, so as the generations go on, the opposition to Chassidut, especially Chassidut Chabad, gets less and less. Pam oyu tainot ala Chassidut atzmo. Once there were claims against the Chassidut itself. Now that we're getting close to sunrise, namely the sunrise of Mashiach, no one today says that something's wrong with Chassidut. Okay, Herschel? But now the Yetzer Hara has a new idea. V'tainut chadashot. Chassidut demands preparation. It's too good, Chassidut. Chassidut shayechet rak liyechidi segula. Chassidut, you have to learn the whole Torah first before you learn Chassidut. Chassidut is only relevant to very, very high people that won't take it wrong. Kol lehelam v'hester yesh hari kavana. And these ideas are wrong. These ideas are concealing the truth. But you should know that any concealment, there's something good in it. What does it mean? We have to use this concealment. Not only, number one, not to be excited by it, not to be, frustrated or emotional about it at all, but exactly the opposite. This opposition to Chassidut that there is now should make us stronger. It should give us a stronger desire and will to learn Chassidut and to teach the ideas of Chassidut. Now again, you people who have never learned Chassidut and you don't know what that is, you have to go to your local Chabad house and ask for a 5-minute explanation. Because it's like me standing here and talking about falafel and how good Joe's falafel is. You don't even know what falafel is. Terrible, by the way, it's terrible. I haven't eaten falafel since then. When the Yetzer Hora, when your selfish inclination realizes that all this concealment, that the concealment and the opposition only brings to a strengthening of the learning of Chassidut, then yuvin she'adavar lo tishalem avura. Then the Yetzer Hora, the evil inclination, will decide this is definitely not working. I would like it if people were as far away as possible from God. And I would like it if I was the boss and everybody was sort of kept in ignorance. Right? Or that suddenly I realized that the more I oppose Chassidut, the more people get excited about it and they start, so I'll keep quiet. Gam oivav yishalim lo, like it says, even his enemies will make peace with him. Hu atzmo yisir tehelim. Then the Yetzer Hora itself will remove all obstacles to learning of Chassidut. How is this? How can we see this? It's happening. All of a sudden, the opposers of Chabad, those who oppose, say they learn a little bit of Chassidut. They say, "Listen, it's not so bad. I won't make a big deal out of it." Not only that, I see when I oppose it that people get stronger. You know what? I'll learn myself, and then I'll understand what's wrong with it, and then I'll really knock it down. And they learn and they realize there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just all beautiful and it's all right. So it comes out that because of the Yetzer Hora, a lot of these people come and they learn Chassidut themselves. And suddenly they start to realize this is not, the policy of Chabad or the mission of the Chabad. This is just the truth. It's just the way you serve God, how to love God. It's just simple truth.
Is there much opposition to Chassidus anymore?
There still is. Not the same. Now the opposition comes from personality problems. Comes from personality problems. Why you have experience? The opposition to Chassidut?
Yeah.
May God give Shalolit Pal Mishum Nisyanot, that we should not be frustrated or negative due to any problems that we have. Halamas v'starim, concealment and hiding. Those difficulties that we have in teaching and spreading our Chassidut, they themselves should cause us to add koach va'ometz, strength and power in spreading out the mayanot, the well springs of Chassidut. And the more that we spread out Judaism, sooner will be the total and complete redemption and the true redemption in this physical world by means of Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mei Rabbi Yameinu. So what did the Rebbe do? He likened and compared learning of Chassidut to the man. And just like the man was eaten by everybody, so Chassidut has to be consumed by everybody. And just like the man had a purifying effect on everybody that ate it, so also Chassidut has a purifying effect on everyone that learns it, makes use of it. Even more, that this man, just as the man was the food that they ate when they left Egypt going into the Holy Land, is also this Chassidut that we're learning will be the food that we eat to take us from the exile into the total redemption by means of the Rebbe, Mashiach Tzidkenu, now really mamish. But we have to learn, and like we're learning in the Maimer in the morning, it's very possible for a person to learn and understand and even teach and impress big crowds, etc., and not take it to heart. He just happens to be a very, like there's Shakespearean actors, right? They really get into the part of King Lear, and they know all the lines and the emotions, and they can really get into it. But the fact is, they're not King Lear. Afterwards he goes into his house and he takes off his crown, and he drinks a beer, something like that. It's the same thing can happen with the Chassidut. A person can sit and learn, and
is there a process to bring it into your heart?
The process is, like we said before, what we call hitbonanut. there are several processes. The main one is contemplating, thinking. Is this really real? Is this really serious? Is this really happening? I mean, really, these ideas, they're wonderful ideas, but you really expect me to believe that God is creating me right now? He's creating me for a purpose, and when I do a commandment, I'm connected to God. Maybe I'm connected to some spiritual level. You put on the tefillin of the arm, it connects you with Chesed and Gevura, which is in Bina, which is in Adam Kadmon, which is this. Okay, that's nice. That's nice stuff because, the commandments shows that the commandments are full of all sorts of meaning. But you want to say that God himself cares if I put on these tefillin or not. You want me to say that? So you have to sit and think. Is God really creating me all the time? Why don't I feel it? Maybe I should feel it. Maybe I can't feel it. You try to feel it.
I was more interested in, you have somebody who accepts it. He thinks about it. Because I understand the film is good.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. And then something comes up and he forgets. And he goes and follows his animal instincts. How do you work to overcome that?
It's work. It's like gravity, right? Gravity pulls a person down, but gravity is natural. It's a natural force that pulls people down. In order for a person to go up, you want to go on a plane, one of this, there has to be energy to defy nature. So Chassidut, Judaism in general, is defying nature. But not only defying nature in a way that we, separate ourselves from nature. Right? You have these people in India, all sorts of branches of Hinduism. There's people that the nature of a person is to walk on his feet and to be comfortable. So they decide, no, they're going to walk on their hands and they're going to be uncomfortable their whole life. And that's what they do, and their backs become bent over, but that's what they decided they're going to do for the gods. That's what listen, it's an idea. There's no. I saw once there was some sort of a group in Japan. They cut off their fingers. They would cut them off one limb at a time to show their devotion to their whatever it was. Those are all defying nature, but in a way that sort of destroys nature. It doesn't really make. Wouldn't it be much better if a person walked upright and he did what God wanted? A person, you took his whole hand, and he used it for what the Creator wanted him to do. Right? That's also defying nature, because the nature of a person is not to do what the Creator wants. It's to recognize that there's a lot of trouble in the world, a lot of problems, and I got to get away from it. Stop the world, I want to get off. That was the thing. Right? Here, Chassidut says exactly the opposite. We are in this terrible, troublesome world in order to make it into a good place, to transform it. That's why we're here. That's true defiance. And that's what the Mashiach is going to do. That he'll make it that everybody utilizes all of their potential for good. But in order to do that, you have to ignore a lot of the bad, and you have to change yourself. And it takes a lot of work. And so it's not surprising that a person could be, a big chassid and a big rabbi and a big this and that, and all of a sudden you give him, a bribe. And it drives him crazy. There's a pasuk in the Torah that says, bribes, ma'avir enei chachamim v'yisalev divrei tzadikim. It says bribes blind the wise and make the righteous crooked. So it's talking about a person who really is wise and a person who really is righteous. He truly is wise and righteous. And you slip a couple grand into his pocket, and all of a sudden he's just a different person. Different person. I've seen it happen. Here you can see, in a very mild way, you can see in Israeli politics there's all these religious parties, and they're willing to do things for money, and they justify it. They justify it. And it's not that they're doing serious bad sins, but they're willing to turn their backs on certain things, and they're willing to, close their mouths on certain issues, and because the excuse is that look how much money they're making for their institutions and their power, and every year they get more votes because they have more constituents, and the bigger the yeshivas, the more constituents, and they get married, they have a lot of children, and they've got a very good point, but the fact is they sold out. They sold out. They sold out in a very minor way, in a very this. But it's like we said, Moshe Rabbeinu said that, if someone would have my powers and my abilities, he could be that he would do better than me. In other words, not everybody has my powers and abilities. But my powers and abilities, that obligates me to do much more than what I'm doing. So he said. So he thought. So it's what's the trick out of the whole thing? The trick out of the whole thing is, true, you have to contemplate God, you have to this, but there are several things that really, really help. One of them is, in general, happiness, positive, simcha, being positive, having a positive attitude. Oh, how do you get the positive attitude? Right? You can't just take a shot or take a pill or something like that. So one way is a farbringen. Another way is going to the mikveh. Going to the mikveh before davening helps. Takes.
Go to the locker.
You have to have. Yeah, you go to the. Making a farbringen with friends, sitting around, singing Chassidic songs, doing mivtzoyim, going and putting on tefillin on other people. Right? You see how other people get excited about putting on tefillin. You think, hey, maybe there really something to this tefillin business. You get excited yourself when you put on the tefillin, because you realize there's really godliness that's above comprehension. But on the other hand, even the most simple Jew can feel it. Simple Jew can feel it. But it's a constant renewal that a person has. You cannot rely on what was yesterday, because the world is and the world always gets you exactly the wrong spot. It's always the exactly that sore tooth. That's the one that you bite the hard nut on, or something like that. I remember there was a boy that learned in the yeshiva. I hope nobody understands who this was, but this is a long time ago, 35 years ago or so. And he had a terrible personality. Terrible, terrible personality. He was luckily he was small. But he would hit people, and once he took a broom and he hit me with a broom, right? He tried to chase me with a broom. I didn't move away, but nevertheless he did. He hit me with a broom. An aggravated, uptight person, you won't find him. And this must have been 35 years ago, even more. And back then they used to have smoking sections. I don't know when they stopped smoking section. Huh? No, in the plains.
Oh.
People used to smoke in the yeshiva. Sure.
I remember.
Sure. Rabbi Cohen, everybody used to smoke. Yeah. Anyway, so this was on the plane, right? On the plane. So this guy, I'm sitting in my place. I'm flying to the Rebbe for Tishrei. And I'm sitting, it happens to be that I'm right in the road dividing. It was like row 42 or something like that. That was the road that divided between the smoking and the non-smoking. And I was a non-smoker at that time. I was a non-smoker. So I'm sitting there getting ready, and I hear, Rabbi Bolton, hi, how are you? I turn around, there he is, there's this guy. So I figure, okay, he's going to go to the Rebbe also. How did you say, Rabbi? You got the right ticket? You have the right seat? You have the right place? Are you with this or that? I don't think it's going to. I don't know. I hope the plane doesn't crash. He's saying all these crazy things. Anyway, so all of a sudden comes in this person on the train, and he says, this guy's coming in, a really nervous guy, not a religious guy. And he's yelling at people, hey, you're sitting in my place. You're sitting in my place. Stand up. You're in my place. So he says, the person says, I'm not in your place. What do you mean here? Another person also has to go and look for his ticket. He has to show this guy the ticket. And finally the stewardess comes and says, excuse me, what is your ticket number? He says, it's 43A. So he said, well, here's your place. Who are you sitting right next to this guy? So I thought, man, this is amazing divine providence. This guy sits down and immediately starts to smoke. It's chain smoke. And my friend he's coughing. He said, that's terrible. You can't, this is a smoking area. You don't like it. Get out. He said, no, it's not smoking, because it was right on the line. Then they start flying. The plane takes off, and this guy takes out a pack of cards, and he's playing solitaire. And he's cursing and yelling that he doesn't get the card that he wants. I don't even remember how you play the game. And if you play it, they try and make a row of whatever it is, and every time he pulls it, he's yelling and screaming. This guy is sitting next to me. This Talmud, he's yelling at him, and he's yelling at him. They're screaming at each other. It's like a cat and a dog. And I stood up, And I looked around, everybody else was calm. If you would have put them sitting next to anybody else, there wouldn't be this thing. Exactly what each one of them could not take, God gave them. And I thought, for sure the same thing must happen to me. Exactly the thing that touches my soft spot, that's exactly the thing that's presented to me. That's exactly, I get, specifically the people who are, I can't stand people who are liars. Specifically the liars come up there. So that's life. That's how life works. We have to be happy. Good.